Good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to have you with us today for a conversation with the Ambassador of Japan. May I request Mr. Kirloskar and the Ambassador to join us at the desk? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kirloskar, may I please request you to begin the proceedings? Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time I'm doing interview or almost like a talk show with His Excellency Kenji Hiramatsu for any matter a session like this. So please excuse me if I don't do this very well. I'll try my best. Excellency, welcome to our function here and thank you for joining us. I've been involved with Japan. I first went to Japan in 1982, and I think I've been to Japan more than 250 or 300 times since. 6, 7 times, 10 times a year in many years. And very frankly, I've had a very good experience with all my personal dealings, my business dealings, making friends in Japan. I believe the Japanese have given me a lot of learning, and that's why I'm so pleased to be here. Ambassador Hiramatsu, like the previous ambassadors whom I have met, has been extremely supportive of the relationships we've had as an industry in terms of CII, and almost anything we ask him, he always says yes. I think that's one thing I must say. He travels around the country. He's been to Bangalore, I know, in his 3 years already 3 or 4 times? Five times. And he visits everyone and very, very open and very transparent with what's happening. We had the India-Japan Business Leaders Forum last Friday in Japan. This was the 11th forum. This was along with the Prime Minister's visit to Japan. It's been happening regularly, 1 year in Japan, 1 year in India. And perhaps I think we can start your talk with a little bit on this forum, on how it's going on and relationship with Japan and between Japan and India. Ambassador. Hi.
Can I use that?
Yes,
Audio?
please. How are you? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vikram, for your kind introduction. Ambassador Lamba, Chairman of Ananta Aspen Center, Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman of Toyota Kirloskar Motor and Vice Chairman, Confederation Indian Industry, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to address at this special occasion organized by Ananta Aspen Center with the support from the Nippon Foundation. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to Ambassador Lamba for inviting me to share my views on the recent visit by Prime Minister Modi to Japan. I'd also like to thank Vikram for chairing our session today. He's my close friend and old friend of Japan. I am looking forward to hearing your perspective about the summit meeting and the ways to further strengthen our bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Modi visited Japan from 27th to 29th November. It was his 3rd official visit to Japan, 5th annual summit, and 12th meeting with Prime Minister Abe. The visit started at the Lakeside Hotel near Mount Fuji. The two prime ministers spent the entire Sunday together in his beautiful part of Yamanashi Prefecture, full of tinted autumnal leaves. They had a strategic discussion at a lunch with restricted members, visited Fanak robot factory, and joined a ride on the express train to Tokyo. Prime Minister Modi became the first foreign leader to be invited to Prime Minister Abe's private holiday home, located in a forest famous for unique Fuji sakura trees. The two leaders enjoyed the informal one-on-one interaction over dinner. The following day, Prime Minister Modi conducted a series of meetings in Tokyo with senior political business leaders of Japan and addressed at a business event as well as gathering of Indian community in Japan. Official events at Prime Minister Abe's residence followed, including Guard of Honor, formal summit meeting, and banquet. I can say with confidence that the visit was the best ever, with wide-ranging agreements and announcement, as well as enhanced mutual trust. The two leaders demonstrated that Japan and India has become the most trusted partners, and it is today a partnership of great substance and purpose, as Prime Minister Modi stated. The strategic discussion which two leaders have held at every annual summit with the maps of the Indo-Pacific region reach a new depth. I believe there are few world leaders who share such deep strategic views like Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Abe. The outcome of the visit was so extensive that we ended up releasing 7,400 word fact sheets on 12 areas, in addition to the Japan-India vision statement and 24 MOUs and MOCs. There were 57 Japanese companies which registered interest in new investment project in India. The phrase which comes to my mind when talking about the substance of this year's summit is shared security, shared prosperity, and shared destiny. The largest and oldest democracy in Asia, Japan and India share values. We also share vision and strategic objectives in the Indo-Pacific region. Our complementarities make India and Japan a winning combination. As mentioned in the vision statement, Japan and India have made enormous progress in fostering joint efforts towards shared security. This year, we have come to demonstrate that the security and defense cooperation are rapidly catching up with the already robust economic partnership. As a symbol of such deepening security cooperation, the two leaders agreed to institute Foreign and Defense Ministerial 2+2 dialogue on top of the various existing mechanisms. Up until now, India had a ministerial 2+2 dialogue only with the United States, and now Japan will be the second country. The 2+2 will oversee and give political guidance to our security and defense cooperation towards achieving a free and open Indo-Pacific. The two leaders also welcomed the commencement of the formal negotiations to conclude the Acquisition and Cross-Servicing Agreement, ACSA. ACSA will provide a framework concerning the reciprocal provision of supplies and services and enhance joint exercises and other cooperation between all three services. Currently, the first joint exercise between Indian Army and Japanese Ground Self-Defense Forces, Dharma Guardian, is taking place in Mizoram. I look forward to witnessing more frequent joint exercises and other cooperation to be conducted between our two forces. In addition, the implementation agreement for deeper cooperation between Indian Navy and Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force was signed. It will enhance maritime security and maritime domain awareness cooperation, establishing the means and the framework for information sharing and other maritime engagement, including the exchange of shipping information. Talking about shared prosperity, new momentum was added to our economic partnership by the announcement of the largest ever currency swap arrangement, various connectivity projects, and new partnership in wide-ranging socio-economic sectors. The bilateral swap arrangement, BSA, of $75 billion was agreed with a view to enhancing financial and economic cooperation between the two countries. BSA of $75 billion is the largest scale ever for Japan. Regarding the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project, the two leaders reviewed with satisfaction the progress made on this landmark project including the signing of the exchange of notes for a 150 billion yen loan. This is the second tranche of this ODA loan for this project. Japan remains committed to this project, which will change the landscape and induce economic transformation in India. In addition to high-speed rail project, the signing of the exchange of notes for yen loans for 6 other projects took place, namely project for renovation and modernization of Umiyam Umutri Stage 3 hydroelectric power stations in Meghalaya, Delhi Mass Rapid Transportation System Project Phase 3 in Delhi, Northeast Road Network Connectivity Improvement Project Phase 3, Dhubri in Assam, and Purubari in Meghalaya. Project for construction of a Truga pumped storage, Purulia in West Bengal. Project for construction of a Chennai Peripheral Ring Road, Tamil Nadu. Project for sustainable catchment forest management in Tripura. The list of outcomes in other economic fields goes on to encompass digital partnership, healthcare, food processing, International Solar Alliance, and so forth. We can now say that Japan and India have shared destiny, as the two prime ministers have repeatedly expressed their conviction that strong India is in Japan's interest, strong Japan is India's interest. The destinies of two countries are intertwined, and our cooperation holds the key to the future of the entire Indo-Pacific region. Based on their shared Indo-Pacific vision, the two leaders reiterated unwavering commitment to working together toward a free and open Indo-Pacific, with special emphasis on ASEAN centrality. The two leaders' vision for the Indo-Pacific is based on the rule-based order that respects sovereignty and territorial integrity of nations, ensures freedom of navigation on overflight, and seeks peaceful resolution of disputes in accordance with international law. They shared willingness to expand concrete cooperation with the United States and other partners. As concrete actions based on their shared Indo-Pacific vision and principle of quality infrastructure, which ensures alignment with local economic and development strategies, lifetime cost, safety, resilience, and social and environmental impacts, among others, the two leaders welcomed the collaborative project to enhance strategic connectivity in the Indo-Pacific region, such as development of LNG-related infrastructure in Sri Lanka, synergizing development efforts in the Rakhine state of Myanmar by collaborating in housing, education, and electrification projects, enhancing connectivity in Bangladesh, for example, by way of a 4-laning of road and the construction bridges on the Ramgarh to Balayarat stretch, and cooperation in Africa, such as in area of health service. Japan and India are also working together for the development of India's northeastern region through Japan-India Act East Forum. We identify and implement projects to enhance connectivity, sustainable forest and ecological management, disaster risk reduction, and people-to-people exchanges. During the summit, exchange of notes was made on a huge bridge project across Bumaraputra River, linking Dhubri in Assam and Purubari in Meghalaya. Furthermore, we should not forget about the deep link between the people-to-people of our two countries, which is at the core of the partnership. In this regard, the two leaders recognized the collaborative launch of the Japanese Language Teachers Training Center in India will build new bridges between the two peoples and agreed to bolster people-to-people exchanges, including through increased exchanges on various levels, as well as further easing of visa requirement for multiple entry visa. This includes easing of criteria of travel records to Japan, simplification of documents to submit, among others. We hope this will further enhance the number of repeat visitors to Japan. Lastly, it is my firm conviction that Japan-India relationship is a certainty in an increasingly uncertain and volatile world. As Prime Minister Abe said, a robust Japan-India relationship is a global common good that underpins regional order. I am convinced that the robust outcome of another historic visit by Prime Minister Modi to Japan will further strengthen our special strategic global partnership. Based on the unshakable trust between the two leaders, I look forward to working with Indian friends and to consolidate India-Japan partnership as the cornerstone of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Sir, thank you for your comments on the last visit. I've been in all the 11 visits that the various, right from Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Prime Minister Modi have had between Japan and India and the various Japanese Prime Ministers. I've been fortunate to be on all the 11 visits and 3-4 years before that when we prepared for these visits. And I've seen a lot of progress over the years. Transparency in our discussions has improved. Almost everything we ask for virtually happens. Also, if you look historically, Japan has been, I think, a big beneficiary of, India has been a big beneficiary of Japan's kindness in things like the Kaveri water project in Bangalore and many other projects, metro, and one of the biggest donors in India. But in spite of all this, our trade is still at a low, it's not great, hasn't grown so much. Investment from Japan has grown a lot, but the trade really hasn't grown so much. How do you think trade will improve? What is required for trade to improve is one question. And the second question is there something we should be careful of not to let our relationship get bad, or are there any warning signs for anything? The trade is not improving, everything else is improving, but trade also should improve. So is there something in that?
Thank you, Vikram. I have been asked this question many times. So,
okay.
Of course, investment is now increasing in a very dramatic manner.
Yeah.
Japan is the largest donor to India in terms of manufacturing sector. So I'm very pleased to see that trend, and now even enhancing trend for more investment coming to India. But with regard to trade, I can devote to you that in 10 years, the increase is 50%. So it's not downward trend. It's going up. But still the pace is not satisfactory, maybe, in view of a very close Japan-India relationship. The one reason maybe is our companies are more interested in investment. So they want to spend more time to find a place for future investment. That will create perhaps some less interaction in terms of trade flows. So that might be one reason. Another reason is our trade system, our supply chain is so complex. Maybe some products will be manufactured in ASEAN countries and imported to India. That is not counted as Japan-India trade. So you have to take into account this very much complex supply chain network. So it is not, this figure does not reflect entire picture of our trade relationship. But nevertheless, I have to admit that I should see more increase in terms of the trade relationship too. For that, we have a SEPA agreement. I like to see more Japanese companies or Indian companies fully utilizing this system for opening up each country's market. So there is a potential that the SEPA agreement should be used in a more efficient manner. But I like to encourage my Japanese companies, especially trading companies, to partner with Indian companies to see more interaction in trade terms. And also, I like to see more business taking place in other parts of the world, including the African continent. I know that several Japanese companies are interested in partnering with Indian companies to do business in African continent. So in a very complex and innovative manner, I think both business people can be benefited each other. So trade is one aspect. I agree with you that it should be done more, but we should look at more entire picture about Japan-India business relationship. I'm sure that it is flourishing in every year.
I agree with you, especially in the manufacturing area. My own experience is we have shifted various products to be manufactured in India, which we are supplying to third countries, not going back to Japan. And so it doesn't get counted as India-Japan trade, it goes somewhere else, but it's actually what was being exported from Japan is being exported from India. So I think in the manufacturing area, we've seen a huge amount of support, training, transfer of technology, very open transfer of technology is our experience. But one of the questions people ask, in the industry ask, is about services, like IT services. We are such a big, strong, and especially coming from Bangalore, we hear this question a lot. We're so strong in IT services, we have such a mega export of IT services, that finding it very difficult to penetrate Japan. And any advice for that, or what we should do?
We need more IT specialists in Japan. The IT is a very important sector for Japan's future development. We lack qualified IT engineers. So we really want to have a more Indian IT sector experts coming to Japan. And for that, we are going to change our visa system to allow them to stay longer with a less cumbersome process to get special allowance to be to work in Japan. So in that way, I like to see more Indian IT engineers coming to Japan. We are going to connect India's IT sector, especially startup sectors, with Japanese very ambitious IT sector engineers and also entrepreneurs. We have established so-called startup hub in Bangalore this year to make sure that there's a place for interaction between two IT and startup industries. In that way, I hope there's more, a partnership between two countries, especially IT and startup sector. So I'm looking forward to having more interaction. We have, of course, manufacturing skills. You have talents. It should be combined to make sure that Japan, India will flourish in IT sector too.
One of the comments at the meeting was on the very low level of tourism. And I think the chairman of Japan East, who's doing the Shinkansen, he made that comment. He says, we hardly have any people coming from India as tourists. And you must get more people coming over from India to Japan. I think it's hardly 150,000 a year. And maybe from Japan, it's a little more than that. I think that's a big potential. Tourism will certainly increase the trade and the other business. But there's also a lot of very little flights. It's very difficult to get seats to Japan. This trip, all of us were struggling how to get to Japan and how to get back, trying to get seats this time. Some work we have to do, I think, together on improving tourism and improving intercultural exchanges. That'll, I think, help this whole journey forward.
Thank you for that question. This is my my preference, and I like to do more with regard to people-to-people exchanges and flow of people between two countries, especially as tourists. As you, Vikram, mentioned rightly, the number of tourists coming from India to Japan is around 130,000 people.
Yes.
And from Japan to India, around 250 Japanese coming to India. Number is increasing, but not as fast as I expected. When I came here as ambassador almost 3 years ago, I was very much shocked to see the figure. Why this is so small number compared with interaction with China, for example.
Yes.
I think 5 million, 6 million Chinese tourists coming to Japan every year, but only 100-something thousand coming from India. That's something wrong. So I announced that during my tenure, I make it 10 times more. But what I achieve is just 30% more, so my target is much well below my expectation. So what we like to do is, of course, the ease of visa process is one way, and also to let Indian people know about the charm Japan can offer. For example, very beautiful cherry blossom seasons, a lot of cultural attraction, and people are very kind to, especially to Indian tourists. So many things should be known by many ways, by promotion, by a kind of exchange programs that people who once come to Japan, I'm sure that they like Japan, and they tell their friends, and their families about the charm of Japan. So in that way, I hope the number will increase. And with regard to connectivity, air connectivity, I agree with you. There should be more flights available between Japan and India, not only Delhi to Japan, but also from southern part of Japan to, southern part of India to Japan. That should be taken into account. I'm, of course, telling Japanese airliners to consider the increase of flights and also a new flight route available between Japan and India.
One comment I have on this Japanese tourism. I think a lot of people in India think Japan is very expensive, and actually I don't think it's like that. I think you have all levels of very excellent services available, excellent hotels, whether they're big or small, and out of Tokyo the pricing is all completely different and really worth going to. People are not aware of that. People all think it's a very expensive place to go to. And I think maybe there's a similar misconception of India. Some things are very expensive, some things are, there are a lot of places to see. I think more publicity and I think a little more pushing with the travel agents. Is required. And any questions from the audience, please? Yes, sir. Yeah. Can you just introduce yourself, please? Yeah, that's him, please. After that.
Thank you very much. I'm Air Marshal in Amdar, formerly Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force. I retired a couple of centuries ago. I've been part of this India-Japan track tour along with Aspen. And I've raised the same issue twice in these meetings in Washington, D.C. The point is, there's a huge potential waiting to be explored and certainly exploited for collaboration in aeronautical design and development. Japan has, to its credit, some huge achievements in this area. I'm not going back to the pre-World War II area where you had world-class carriers, world-class fighters. We all grew up in that image of the Zeki or the Zero fighter that you had designed. Fantastic aviation and aeronautical tradition. Subsequent to the World War, you made tremendous strides in aeronautical design and development. Major assemblies of both civil aviation aircraft, especially Boeings, and combat aircraft, F-16. Today they are made, assembled, put together and exported to America for assembly. Those kind of factories, that kind of technology, that kind of infrastructure, it's humongous in Japan today. And I feel this is a niche area where India and Japan could get together, be mutual beneficiaries of this, and we could do with that kind of input. And Japan would like to consider this, Japan getting into this act, putting the two things together, and developing or imparting the know-how and technology of aeronautical design and development to, my mind, great mutual profitability. Thank you.
Any comment on that?
Oh, yes, thank you for that. And in any defense cooperation, we have just started collaboration in defense field by signing agreement on defense and equipment collaboration. I think it was almost 3 years ago. From that time, we started negotiation discussion with regard to what area, what subject Japan and India collaborate. And after that, we came up with 2 areas. That is unmanned vehicle and also robotics, which will be jointly, we have a joint review, joint research project. So this is not a small project, but it's a nice start to have a more understanding between two defense industries. So I think what you mentioned, of course, in the future we'll be looking into that, and of course defense industries collaboration between Japan and India will be, I think, important area. But Japan has just started this kind of a defense equipment collaboration with third countries. So we are still trying to get to use this kind of a business. So I think it will take some time. Gradual step should be preferable for achieving something big in the future.
Thank you. Can we just, we'll go around and we'll come back. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Excellency, in the month of March this year, we met Mr. Mayakoshi from Japan, you see, the special advisor to the Prime Minister of Japan. He had come here and to explore the possibilities of the export of agricultural goods to India, you see. And we met him in your embassy itself, actually. I wanted to know, has there been any progress so far as the export of products, the food products from Japan? Has there been any progress over the last 6 or 7 months? And my second question is that now that India, Japan, and US, we hold Malabar exercises quite often, every year almost, you know. And now we are talking about this Indo-Pacific partnership we are talking about. How do you look at the concept of Quad, that is India, Japan, US, and Australia, that's being talked about for the last 6 or 7 months? How do you look at the prospects of Quad? And the first question which I asked, the 2 questions I asked. Thank you.
Thank you. No, yeah, please, the next one. No, after he finishes. Yes, please, sir.
Thank you for that. Your first question is about food products, and I think Mr. Miyakoshi, he's a special advisor to Prime Minister. Yeah. He's in charge of food export and import. And we are very keen to support food processing industry here. And we have come up with a memorandum of understanding between your Ministry of Food Processing and Japanese Ministry for Agriculture to enhance collaboration in food processing area. And we met Honorable Minister of Food Processing a couple of times together with the Japanese companies to know that we can connect with Indian partners for more partnership in food processing sector. Companies like Kagome is a big Japanese food processing company, is planning to come to Maharashtra to have a processing factory for tomato, and that is one example. So from that time, a special advisor came to India. We have established a mechanism for collaboration in food and food processing sector between 2 countries, and some concrete projects are now emerging out of this. So this is, again, my very favorite topic, and we should do more with regard to agriculture, food, and food processing sector. Your second question was Quad, and we are very pleased to have a revival of Quad, and we have already 2 meetings in Quad formulation. I think it is a way to enhance our common understanding about the situation in this region, and also we share the same values of freedom, navigation, and democracy, and these kind of things. So it is natural that 4 countries get together regularly, but to enhance free and open and inclusive, prosperous Indo-Pacific, there are various ways. Of course, Japan-India partnership is one of the driving force for achieving this goal. And also we have traditional Japan-India, United States trilateral dialogue. We have minister-level trilateral dialogue in, I think, twice. So, and also we have Japan-India, Australia dialogue, and we have Japan-Australia, United States trilateral, and we have East Asia Summit and ARF and regional mechanism. So there are many ways. I think the multifaceted multi-layered way for achieving this goal is, I think, very effective. So Quad is not only mechanism to achieve the goal. This is an important mechanism, but I think there are various ways combined to achieve this goal. So we are very much open-minded. We are inclusive. Every country, all countries are welcome in our joint endeavor for achieving free and open Indo-Pacific region.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Excellency, I am Tarun Vijay, a former Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha. I was a member of the first India-Japan Eminent Persons Group. I feel that it's ironical that the India-Japan relations, which are very, very trustworthy, dependable, perhaps the most trustworthy relations that we have with any other country. And the chemistry between Abe-san and Mr. Modi is simply incredible and unprecedented. But it has become a prisoner of the diplomatic nuances and defense cooperation. It's much, much beyond that. I had always been emphasizing on giving appropriate emphasis on people-to-people contact and the cultural and civilizational exchanges which are age-long, and they form the basic foundation of everything that we are doing it. For a common Indian has so much of love, respect and affection for everything Japanese. It's out of, it's from heart. I was in class 6 40 years before, maybe 45 years before, when I learned everything good about Japan. But why that love and respect amongst the common Indian is not being attended to, is not being addressed? There has been a great dearth of translation of books between Japanese and Indian languages. The entire worldview between India and Japan cannot be just MEA or South Bloc. There's a great number of 98% of Indians who are non-English speaking people. You cannot address a common Indian in just one language and then expect a response. Your books in Tamil, in southern languages, are simply not available or maybe very difficult to get. In Hindi, it's not available. And you are not addressing the large Indian population who is naturally inclined towards Japan. Why is it so, Excellency? And the future cannot be just military cooperation, Quad, or your investment in bullet train, or being a biggest donor. It's much beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you. One comment I will make. I have a lot of Japanese people in Bangalore, and I've got so many of our Indian members speak Japanese, but I've got so many Japanese who've become really good in Kannada. And one of the things they tell me is that Kannada is the grammar is very similar to Japanese, and they're able to pick it up very fast. Anyway, but there is something going on at there's something going on in Bangalore University. I know there's a big Japanese program going on at Bangalore University. If you're talking of southern states, where we are teaching this language and various things. Also, Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore is also having a large project with Japan. Just for information. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tarun Vijay, for your long time cooperation. Japan is highly appreciated. Thank you very much for that and for coming to today's event. And what you said about the people-to-people exchange is crucial, as I said, and I'm working very hard to that we can learn each other, we know each other better. For that, interaction, exchanges, people between Japan and India is crucial. I hope, as I said, more tourists are coming from both sides, and also many people will learn Japanese language too. And we have just established a so-called Japanese language training center, thanks to Mr. Chawla, and for training Japanese teachers in order that they can teach proper Japanese in many institutes and schools around India. And also what you said is very important, not only English, but also other language will be used in order that we can let people know about Japan. So I like to see the ways how to translate something written about Japan, some literature or something, to be translated in the different languages. I don't know how to do it. I need support from Indian government. I need the support from Japanese Institute, Japan Foundation, and others. Maybe I can ask for collaboration with Japanese companies to do that. I know that everything in Japan will be properly understood by local people. So let me think about that, and with your help, how we can achieve this important suggestion that you mentioned. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Your Excellency, I am Arvinda Lamba. I was the former Vice Chief of Army Staff of the Small Indian Army. I just have two small questions, sir. First is, when you talk about India-Japan, the cornerstone of Indo-Pacific partnership, I'm coming back to the security that the former Vice Chief of Air Force mentioned, but I think strategy and security is the fundamental of the cornerstone of Indo-Pacific partnership. To make it enduring, while we talk about trade, peoples to people, as a security person, I do get refocused at what makes this work, sir. I think 2-3 things that Japan can really share with India. First is its excellent technologies. Its Air Force was just mentioned, the equipment in aviation, but I think the naval equipment, particularly the anti-submarine warfare, is something that's absolutely leading today. Japan is making its own 5th generation fighter, and I don't want to name some of the other modern technologies. This is really the sourcing of technology that can benefit India, opening the corridors into what has been announced by the Defense Minister in Japan recently, when she mentioned about the corridors into UP, Uttar Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, and in the south. I think, sir, as a concept and an approach, the strategic partnership, one major fundamental will remain security. In Make in India, joint production, sourcing technologies, and increasing the potential of this joint capability. And I think that's really fundamental to growth in this context of being a cornerstone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm a security person, so I very much echo what is said. Any bilateral relationship is supported by security and defense cooperation. I'm happy to see various important projects and initiatives have been taking place during the course of 2 or 3 years. And as you mentioned, naval level collaboration, I'm very pleased to see the every time enhanced level of interoperability and cooperation between Japanese naval forces and Maritime Self-Defense Force and Indian Navy in the Malabar exercise. Last time we had an important anti-submarine exercise in off Guam area. So level is now increasing. So there are many other areas for future collaboration in terms of defense equipment cooperation and also more enhanced level of joint exercise. So I'm very pleased to hear from you the importance of security defense cooperation. My task was how to catch up our cooperation defense and strategic area with economic and investment cooperation. So that is now happening. I'm very happy to see that each of us have the same intention to have a more strategic security and defense-oriented cooperation with some concrete initiative projects. That is important. And I'm very pleased to hear from Prime Minister Modi when he spoke in Shangri-La Dialogue. He mentioned that Japan is a cornerstone for India's Act East policy. Cornerstone is a very big word for us. So that means that India places Japan very highly in terms of security and strategic cooperation. Of course, we entirely echo what Prime Minister Modi said.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Your Excellency, I've had privilege of many discussions with you, but I like to continue on what the Honorable Member of Parliament mentioned earlier, and I'd like to narrow it a bit. Should we expect any new direction in the last summit on university to university exchanges? But that is something which we know, language exchanges, we know about exchanges in IT, science and technology, but somewhere we are looking for some message from the summit on university to university exchanges. I wonder whether you would like to enlighten us on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, as usual, for your very important comments. And of course, this science technology exchanges and university level exchanges are always on the agenda of Prime Minister's discussion. This time was the same. They discussed how to enhance our collaboration in higher education level, including universities. And there are some memorandum of understanding MOC has been signed with regard to AI area. I think some university, Japan and Indian university, would have a collaboration with AI area. So that is one example. So, but we like to see more, student level exchanges, especially in universities. We should have more scholarship available for Indian students in universities, and also we like to have a more, vice versa, the Indians students coming to Japan. So I frankly think that we should do more with regard to number of scholarship available for both students, and also we like to count on more, not only government but also university themselves or some private companies to participate in a joint endeavor to increase the number of students, studying each university in both countries.
Yes, sir.
I'm Professor S.K. Jain, IIT Delhi. Excellency, it was very valuable input you gave. My very brief questions. One is in continuation that there is a lot more scope of partnership in academic institutions. I have been to a couple of Japan universities, delivered lectures also, but I think there is more scope for, more MOUs and effective MOUs. So one thing is that, and it can be taken further. Second is how can India and Japan do partnership for expansion of UN Security Council? For expansion of UN Security Council for mutual benefit. And third, that what can India learn from Japan for past 50 years? On your partnership experience with other countries, and what can Japan learn from India on India's partnership experience with other countries?
Yes, as I mentioned, we have started some collaboration between your institution and Japanese universities and other collaboration university level, especially science technology areas. We have come up with a concrete subject to be studied between the Japanese and Indian universities. We have started this kind of collaboration, but not only MOU. I think MOU is important. This is just a beginning. I like to see the real substance based on these MOUs. So I like to encourage Japanese universities to look into the more concrete project to be implemented with participation by Indian universities like IIT Delhi. So that is already mentioned in the fact sheet of attached to vision statement issued by two prime ministers. Some concrete programs to be implemented by Japanese and Indian universities. That's good, but I don't think that is not enough with regard to the level of substance, with regard to the number of the collaboration. So with your help, I'd like to see more. If you want some concrete suggestions, please let me know. I'm really happy to connect with the idea with Japanese universities too. And you talked about UN Security Council before. Thank you very much. This is my favorite topic. And it'll take some 10 or 20 minutes, but I make it short. But two prime ministers discussed this issue. Japan, India form part of so-called G4, Japan, India, Brazil, and Germany. But I think Japan, India is really driving force. I know that we can do something concrete with regard to UN Security Council reform, of course by expanding the number of permanent membership and to have more, participation from non-permanent membership. So we have already proposed something very concrete. But discussion in the negotiation group is not making some progress, but it's not making enough progress to be able to discuss on the text-based negotiation. So in this current session, Japan and India are very keen to have more progress with regard to this important agenda of Security Council reform. Next year is, I think, very important year, or 2 years time, 2020 is important for United Nations. So we hope that something very concrete will happen before that timing. So Japan and India are very committed to this important agenda, which is very crucial for two countries. I think your third question is?
Was that what can Japan learn from India's past 50 years experience, and what can India learn from Japan's past 50 years on partnership?
Very big question. Yeah, there's complementarity always, Japan, India, and we can offer our advanced technology and the financing to India's development. We are very happy to do that. And in terms of ODA flow to India and investment flow to India, there are many ways to support India's economic development. And also we are very keen to support enhancement of people's well-being by supporting environment and also sanitation project. So not only big infrastructure project, but also we like to support the projects which address real needs of grassroots people. And of course, we can learn from India and a lot of new ideas, especially in IT sector. The reason why I'm attach great importance to startup business collaboration, because I see a lot of very interesting, innovative ideas coming from India's in startup business. So I hope it will be introduced in Japan's business, that we can benefit each other. So Japan needs, I think, energy and also talent and innovation from India. Japan is a well-developed country, and we have a lot of experience, but we need, I think, very innovative idea from younger people and vibrant kind of energy coming from India. That is beneficial for Japan. That's why Japanese Prime Minister is always saying that strong India's interest for Japan, and the strong Japan is interest for India. This mutual beneficial relationship. I hope I answered your question.
Just in addition, 15 or 18 years ago, the big story was a Japanese bank getting restructured with a whole lot of Indian technical bankers with a lot of software expertise, and they restructured a bank which has been very successful after that. I think 15 or 18 years ago, this was very big out there. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
After that.
My name is Rika from Standard Chartered Bank, supporting Japan businesses in India. So I would like to hear more of your view, Mr. Kirloskar, more than just having everyone asking Hiramatsu-san about his opinions.
No, he's the.
In Japan, we have been always like zero interest country over 20 years. And then it's not only the reason why we're coming over to India for cost perspective, not only for a labor perspective, but then like he was mentioning, there are a lot of startup companies who are trying to come over. There are more of small, medium-sized corporations as opposed to large ones that have been already here. How would you think that those tier or patch of new investors are coming over here? I would like, and then how do you, whether you have interest in those small, medium, new sectors to come on board to India as one of the big investors? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, my experience really has not been so much in startups, it's been in manufacturing. And whatever I've seen, my partnership with Toyota, I've got 6, 7 joint ventures in various products with Toyota, from cars to textile machinery. It has been more on, not on labor arbitrage. None of this has been on labor arbitrage. It's really been on looking at the local market here, as well as perhaps transferring products which are more competitive in India to sell around the world. That's really been the kind of the basic business purpose. But secondary purpose has also been to develop a lot of innovative ideas. One of the nice things we've learned from Toyota is that they're not really concerned which part of the world a good idea has come from. And they have an ability to copy a good idea in any of their factories around the world, all over the world. So it doesn't mean that only something in Japan is very good or something in India is very good, but we've been able to do that. And that's really sort of kind of been the basic business purpose. In some areas, what we have learned and what we are teaching back other Toyota companies is in a green factory. Our car factory in Bangalore is one of the greenest car factories in the world. We use no fresh water, we use the lowest amount of electricity per car produced. It's all come out of small innovations. So yes, this kind of innovation, what we have developed, has also gone outside from our country and gone to other places. But I see the amount of interest, especially SoftBank has done enormous investment in Japan in startups. Maybe the biggest investor in Japan now is perhaps SoftBank. And the stories about some huge funds they're talking about to get into renewable energy and other kind of startups out there, especially in the renewable energy side. So I think you'll see a lot of Japanese money coming into startups in India in the future. I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's about the knowledge I have about this area. Thank you. Sorry, before that, Salil, please. And then the gentleman, and then...
Ambassador Hiramatsu, pleasure to hear you. I'm Salil Singhal. We do a lot of business in Japan. And I would completely second what Vikram said about working together on innovations and producing products in a most competitive and most cost-efficient manner. We work with almost a dozen fine chemical companies in Japan, where we have been able, because of our R&D setup here, substantially reduce the cost of manufacturing, and then have been manufacturing products here, which are then exported to Japan and to their customers internationally, to make this truly what you call a make in India for the world. And this is a model which I think can be replicated in many ways. However, my question is on a very different footing. Honorable Abe-san went to China a few days before my Prime Minister reached your country and supported the One Belt, One Road proposition of the Chinese. Whereas for India, it is strategically a very questionable approach that the Chinese are taking, and India does not support that idea. So how do you reconcile the opposite stands of two very good friends?
Our position of Belt and Road Initiative is unchanged, is unchanged. And Prime Minister Abe went to China. They arrived to Japan, returned to Japan, just one day before your Prime Minister arrived Tokyo. But what Prime Minister Lee said with regard to our position to Belt and Road initiatives, as we have been telling to India's friend, is not changed at all. And we really hope that this Belt and Road initiative will be in line with international standards, respecting the rule of law and respecting the sound financing practice and debt practicing. And we hope that this Belt and Road initiative will continue to support this kind of basic principle. What Japan is doing is to provide a quality infrastructure to the infrastructure project in this region. So in this way, we like to make sure that this project will be sustainable, taking into account important elements such as just environment consideration and sound debt financing practice and transparency, inclusiveness. These kind of important elements should be taken into account. And you said that Japan, as if you said that Japan has changed position vis-a-vis Belt and Road Initiative. It's not, I'm sorry to say that, it's not true. And we think our position with regard to free and open Indo-Pacific vision between Japan and India are very, I think, identical. We are working in order that this place will be open, free, and inclusive, and take into account the importance of ASEAN centrality and these kind of things. So I think our position in Japan, in the position vis-a-vis Indo-Pacific vision is quite similar. So I think what we are doing to Japan is, of course, Japan's China to China. Sorry, China is a very important partner for us, and we like to have a better relationship with China in terms of economy, in terms of trade, in terms of investment, business relationship, and so on. I think India has been doing the same thing to China during the course of this year. Of course, they discuss quite a lot about their approach to China. I'm sorry I can't disclose what they discussed, but I think what we see this region, Indo-Pacific region, in a very similar way. So I don't think there is no discrepancy between the approach we take, Japan take, with regard to in this region. So I think their strategic convergence is very much enhancing now. Every time they meet, I see the their strategic convergence is now increasing every time. So that is, really India-Japan special strategic and global partnership. Thank you very much.
We've got 3 more questions, I think. One is a gentleman at the back there. He's been asking for some time, followed by this gentleman here and gentleman here. Oh, got 2 more. Okay, let's see how the timing goes up after that. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Ranjit Kumar. I'm a journalist. Excellency,
short questions, please. Yeah.
Just before Prime Minister Modi's visit to Japan, Prime Minister Abe paid a very successful visit to China, and before that, Prime Minister Modi had a very successful visit to China also. So do you think any possibility of 3 nations coming closer in jointly managing the affairs of Indo-Pacific?
You mean that three leaders are sitting together? Oh.
The 3 nations coming closer in jointly managing the affairs of the Indo-Pacific region.
As I said, our views on Indo-Pacific is inclusive and transparent. So if any countries agrees with our basic principles, free and open and rule-based order, and any fundamental basic principles we are advocating, if any country agree with this approach, they are welcome. So I don't know how this relationship will unfold in the future, but any countries, our approach is very inclusive and open. So I cannot name one country, but any countries who want to join our joint endeavor, they are welcome.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Karni Singh. I just wanted to know if, considering that Japan is a culture which is steeped into politeness and would never allow friends to lose face, etc. So under those circumstances, is there any critical appraisal that Japan does internal to itself, which sort of speaks of acute disappointment in last 4 or 5 years of what India has been able to deliver, or it is aptly satisfied?
Well, it's a very tough question to me, but I'm basically very pleased with the way our two countries' relationships have been developing in these 2 or 3 years as in my tenure as ambassador. So difficult to find out downside of our relationship, but just on behalf of Japanese business people here in India, I see a lot of progress with regard to ease of doing business, for example. Many reform measures have been taking place, and we are seeing very successful and continuous efforts on the part of Indian government to make India more business friendly. So, but still some issues, problems happen with regard to their business relationship in India. So I hope still more measures to be taken with regard to ease of doing business in this country, especially infrastructure development and more smooth process of any kind of administrative process and so on, or tax issues and so on. So that I'm not complaining, but I hope this aspect for more business-friendly environment will emerge in the very, very near future. So, but I want to repeat that many good progress has been taken in these 2 or 3 years, but still something more should be done in order that our business people can do better business in this very important country.
Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. My name is Kanav Monga. You did not mention anything about the discussions on RCEP. Are there any discussions, and is there a possibility of the services sector opening up in RCEP, and was there any discussion between the two leaders?
Yes, we have a discussion on RCEP and in a leaders level, and that is important strategic value. So they have discussion how to press ahead with this important initiative, and we exchange our views and our concerns with regard to how to speed up the process. We'd like to have a substantial agreement before the end of the year, for that every country has to show some flexibility, and also we have to take into account each country's concern. So I know that service sector is a particularly important issue for India. We acknowledge that, so we are thinking how to find a landing zone for our negotiation in months to come. So I cannot say concretely what kind of discussion we had, but this is one of the agenda that two Prime Minister discussed, and we agreed to accelerate our process of negotiation, taking into account each country's concerns and issues, problems, and also by showing some flexibility by all parties involved.
Hey, we have a couple of minutes. There's a lady out there. If you can keep it very short, and then the gentleman here, please. But very short questions, yes.
Sir, Mamuni Das from the Hindu Business Line newspaper. Just had a couple of questions. One is about the impact of currency swap arrangement on the debt or loan for transport, the transport projects, say the HSR or the metro projects, if any, if at all there is any such impact. And the funds released for HSR projects, what are they going to be utilized for, sir? And the notes that were exchanged on the HSR project, are there any changes between what was signed initially and what has been signed now? Sir, I also have just one more question on the shipping information exchange that you have. If you could share some details, that will be great. And the 57 companies that expressed interest.
Well, I think, may I request him to answer one question, please?
Sir.
We are going to be running out of time.
Okay, sir.
Any
So
one
that's it.
question? Any one question? Any one of us?
So your first question about
maybe on the
currency
75 billion.
swap,
Yeah.
and I think it's important for enhancing the economic and trade relationship between two countries and the stability of our financial market, especially in India. So this is a kind of safety net for rainy days, and I hope this is useful for enhancing the credibility of Indian economy, especially in India's financial market. So this is intended to make sure that India can cope with any difficulties in the future. But this is a kind of safety net. Important things to give the impact to financial market. That's why we made this kind of agreement between two countries.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Quick, short question, and then we'll close.
See, we have been waiting for a very long time. We have been waiting for a very long time to hear some good news about any agreement on US-2 amphibious aircraft. Now, I very carefully went through the joint statement. There's only a very small terse kind of statement reference to this topic. I would like to know from the ambassador whether any concrete result is likely to be achieved in the coming years, because many people are really eager to know about this. The second one is also about the civil nuclear cooperation agreement. Once again, we spent a number of years on negotiating this agreement, but now it has been in place for the last more than 1 year. We would like to know whether any concrete progress is likely to be made in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And US2, you're right in saying that we have been discussing this quite some time. And this time also we agreed to continue to discuss on this issue. And we know that this is very important technology for India in terms of search and rescue and transportation purpose. So we like to see more progress. But this time, Prime Minister agreed to continue to discuss, taking into account a very important aspect of this US2 collaboration. So, but I can say only that what you see in the joint document, that we continue to discuss on this issue. And with regard to civilian nuclear agreements, it was made, I think it was 2 years ago. It was very important, and our companies are interested in collaborating with supply of some very important equipment to the civilian nuclear programs in these countries. So discussions are ongoing, how we can support India's civilian nuclear industry. So this issue is a very important issue, and two countries are now in a very intensive negotiation how we can make it happen in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador Hiramatsu, for really sitting and answering all kinds of questions, a big breadth of questions. Also, so many eminent people in this room, so many ambassadors from India and other places. We have a wonderful gathering here. Can we give him a big round of applause and close the session? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think tea is ready.